Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World episode 96. I wrote it down and I forgot straight away. Goodness me. It's because I'm doing it early in the morning. So hello, I'm John Jordan and I'm very pleased joining me today is Derek Lau, who is the game director at Guild of Guardians at Immutable, who are based in Australia, hence our we're slightly extreme time differences. Anyway, how's it going, Derek?
Yeah, going real well. Very excited to be here chatting to you, John. Thanks.
Good. Yes, no, this is going to be a good episode. I think this is I've spoken to a lot of people, lots of people doing kind of interesting games, but Guild of Guardians is one I'm particularly interested in. We'll get into the reasons for that later on. But before we kind of headlong into the game, let's find out a bit about you. So, how do you get into blockchain? How do you get into games? What's your sort of what do we call it? What your narrative?
Yeah, so I have a bit of a unique background. I've been into gaming my whole life, ever since I was a little kid. Coming out, I had a kind of a commercial background in uni and ended up doing getting into a startup and founding a startup, which failed. I then ended up moving into management consulting, where I was giving consulting to C-suite executives of different companies. And then I got introduced into the crypto space around 2017. Thought it was interesting. Got introduced into NFTs around the same time, towards the end of 2017, and that's when I got really excited, when I could kind of see the potential of, well, you could actually do something with crypto as opposed to just using it as a currency. And so I've been super deep into the space ever since. Started off as just kind of an active member of the Crypto Kitties community. Actually was like ranked number 3 in terms of all-time number of breeds on that.
Wow.
So I'm like very deep into the space. And then around 2 years ago, I ended up joining Immutable to help them figure out how to add new games to their platform. So what kind of games would make sense, how to build them, etc. And so I've been working on that for kind of past 2 years, and for the past year, we've been building out Guild of Guardians, which is a mobile RPG game where the vision is we want to create this really fun and compelling mobile RPG played by millions of players all around the world, where they can turn their passion for gaming into assets.
Cool. Good. Very succinct. Yeah. So for people who don't know, I guess most people do Immutable X. Or Immutable. Sorry, we're going to get onto Immutable X. Immutable is what used to be called was it Fuel Brothers back in the day? Based in Australia. Yeah. Really, I guess most famous for Gods Unchained, the big kind of trading card game that's sort of being built out. And also now, sort of, you're building out your Immutable X kind of scaling solution for Ethereum as well, which we'll talk a bit about. But Guild of Guardians has sort of caught my attention, and you mentioned it there. It is a mobile RPG, and I guess my background is spent a lot of time in the mobile free-to-play space, and mobile is something in blockchain that we've seen a decent number of blockchain games go into mobile. Some stuff like Upland fairly successful, but there's still this sort of I'm always interested in finding out how mobile blockchain games kind of think they're going to operate, because we still have this sort of issue around sort of app stores. So kind of first sort of question is, why did you decide to position yourself as a mobile game? Because some people do sort of, we'll do mobile, we'll do a bit of browser or whatever. And how do you see the landscape around sort of mobile, particularly app stores at the moment?
Yeah, I think the decision wasn't just let's go on mobile. I think we were very specific with the fact that we decided to go with a mobile kind of squad-based RPG. And ultimately that's because we believe that that's a very good fit for NFTs and a very good fit for blockchain. Like, we don't want to necessarily just be taking a game and slapping in NFTs as skins. We want to be building this game with NFTs in mind so that it really makes the game better and it creates this real open world economy. So that's kind of the logic behind mobile RPGs generally. In terms of mobile, the thinking there is that it's a very big genre. It's kind of twice as big as PC and console combined. It's growing 4 or 5 times as quickly, and so it's a very popular genre, and it's also very accessible. And so kind of one of our goals is we want this thing to be as big as possible, as accessible as possible. And so the thinking was to go with this mobile genre.
In terms of the App Store stuff, I mean, obviously you're still in development, so you've sort of not got to that stage. I mean, do you? I guess kind of it's not a kind of direct comparison, but it's sort of interesting at the moment. We see, over the last kind of month, we've seen Axie Infinity sort of grow very quickly, and it is a mainly mobile game, although you can play it on PC. But what's interesting is like whatever it is, 70% of the players are playing on Android, but they're side loading APKs. They're not it's not available on the Google App Store. Even not it's not available on the Apple App Store either. That's through TestFlight, which is sort of like a kind of testing mechanic. So, how far along in your thinking when you come to deploy, will you go down the APK route, which is obviously much more popular in sort of or much more kind of normal in Asian kind of markets, not so much in the West? Or do you think app stores are going to kind of become more open because just blockchain is going to be a thing they're going to have to deal with? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think app stores are very much aware of this thing. All right, they've kind of even for crypto wallets, they've been looking into that for the past few years and even made specific changes in their T's and C's around that. And so this is definitely an area that that they're actively looking in. Our approach here is to work cooperatively. So in the first sense, we want to make sure to not breach any Apple T's and C's, and to make sure that if we do sell things through the App Store, that we're kind of going by their rules, doing the 30% cut, etc. But I think we are kind of designing with this in mind that, well, ultimately our goal is we want to make it very accessible, very mainstream, and that means being available to download on the App Store, both iOS and Android. And so that's kind of our goal, and that's what we're building towards. I think the APK solution might be kind of a good shorter term solution, but definitely the goal is to work cooperatively with them.
I guess if nothing else, sort of the kind of APK solution, as you sort of put it, it's actually quite a good example to companies to say people really care about these things. They're prepared, they're going to get them, even if you don't allow them on your store. They're going to happen anyway. It's going to be big. They're going to be even bigger if you allow them on your store, and I guess there's you work out ways of how that revenue sort of share sort of goes, how that kind of is, because obviously they are providing a service. But I think it is I imagine quite interesting. I'm sure there are kind of talks, people at Google saying, well, there's 1 million people playing this game, or whatever it is, 600,000 people playing this game a day, and it's not available through our store. What's our strategy here? But
exactly,
maybe that's for another time. I mean, to be fair, you guys are quite a long way off in terms of. I think your alpha is planned for the end of this year, so you're still, you're a long way from having like a formal sort of release.
Yeah, we're aiming to release early next year, and so there is some time. We've begun, conversations with different people in the different app stores, so we are trying to preempt a lot of this as well, and not wait till the end.
Okay, so let's talk a bit more about the game. So mobile RPG kind of squad element. Can you go into a bit more detail about sort of gameplay? If I'm kind of playing this for the first time, what am I doing? How many characters am I, selecting? Do they have gear? How does that sort of stuff work? Yeah,
so like you said, it's a squad-based RPG. So when you load into the game, you basically pick a team of heroes that you can send into dungeons. So you can pick up to 4 heroes, and there'll be different synergies that you can also think about, or how to equip them to make the most of those teams, especially versus kind of different monsters and different bosses in the dungeons. And so when you get into a dungeon, you control 1 hero at a time, and the other 3 are AI controlled. And so you're also able to switch between the different heroes that you're able to control as well. Each hero has kind of a unique character and personality. It's a bit like Overwatch or League of Legends heroes, and they'll also have unique active abilities that you can cast as well. And so there's kind of an action RPG element to it. There's also a strategic element to it as well. And then after you finish these dungeons, you're able to get rewards, which is how you level up, make your team more powerful, and kind of progress throughout the game.
So on the reward side, I guess I'm probably getting some things, XP sort of things that I'm imagining are probably not running on the blockchain. They're just like standard games. You're kind of leveling up characters, but probably some blockchain elements as well. So how are you playing? Will every character be an NFT? Will NFTs be a special case? Do you have sort of a token people are earning? How does that sort of stuff come together?
Yeah, so I guess taking it a level up, our goal is to create this really big and long-term sustainable NFT economy. And so NFTs play a very important part of the game, but they're not everything in the game is an NFT. And so when the game first starts, the game's free to play. And so people will be able to start with one kind of common hero, which is not on the blockchain. And they'll also be able to get items which are also not on the blockchain. And then as players play the game, they're able to craft items together with their guild. So they kind of enter these dungeons, they'll get rewards including crafting materials, and they'll be able to craft items. Or they'll also be able to kind of work their ways towards heroes that are also NFTs. And so they're able to summon more heroes that they can play with, and then they're able to also merge. The way it works is there's something in the game called merging, where you can merge 5 heroes into one hero of a higher rarity.
Yeah.
So players can play the game, they get these 5 common heroes, and then merge it into one rare hero, which is then tradable in the blockchain, and then they can kind of merge those into epics and so on. And the way we do it is we've kind of split up the economy as well, and so the heroes that can be earned through merging, or the items that can be crafted through crafting, actually can't be bought from us. And so the only way that they get made is by players playing the game, and that creates this like purely player-driven economy, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting at the moment where talking to game designers and hearing other game designers sort of talk about this sort of thing, and it is interesting how it takes people kind of a bit of time to get their head around. How can blockchain be free to play? So at the moment, obviously, again, probably actually probably overuse it as an example, but at the moment, you either need to go to a scholarship or you need to spend like whatever it is, $1,500 to get the 3 you need, which is it is what it is. But clearly, if you're going to take a game, kind of mass market or mobile, it needs to be free to play, and blockchain doesn't necessarily kind of work very well with free to play, because you kind of, if people are getting in for free and then can just mint stuff too easily, then obviously you have a inflationary economy. So it is interesting how you sort of gate that. I guess because you're on your own side chain, or not side chain, your own L2, that's allowing you, giving you a lot more flexibility. So do you want to talk a little bit, not probably I guess too much detail, but what's Immutable X and how does that change what you can do compared to just running on the Ethereum mainnet?
Yeah, sure. So in short, Immutable X is a layer 2 scaling solution for NFTs, and it's run on Ethereum. And so what that means is it's as secure and decentralized as Ethereum, but it allows up to something like 9,000 transactions per second, and allows users not to pay gas fees. And so this is the technology that we're using because we believe Ethereum has super strong network effects, is going to be here in 100 years' time. So we want to build on this in this system, while also allowing us to be scalable and provide this frictionless user experience.
Yeah, and for people who haven't checked it out, it's worth checking out. It is live now. I think all the Gods Unchained cards have been sort of reissued on Immutable X, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. I won't go into all that detail, but there's a whole bunch of games coming out for it as well. So it's not just the games from your company. You've got these other companies. So if you're into blockchain games, it's worth sort of checking out what's going on with Immutable X. So obviously it's in the name of it's in the title of the game. You just mentioned it there. How does the guild structure work? Obviously it's important because the game's called Guild of Guardians. So I assume you spent quite a lot of time thinking about how guilds work.
Yeah. So there's a few things here. So the first premise of the game is that we believe games are better with friends, right? And so we want guilds to be, and the social aspect of the game to be, really prominent. One of the main reasons that people like NFTs in the first place is the ability to show them off, right? And so we want to give players the opportunity to show off their heroes and play with other people at the same time. And so this is where the guild focus really comes in, and that's going to be a lot of where our focus is, particularly as we move after soft launch. And so the other part there as well is that basically the guilds is going to be one of the core earning mechanics as well. So for example, the only way to craft items is actually to play through guilds. And so there's another reason why there's kind of focus there. And then lastly, the benefits of NFTs really only come into play when you have an actual economy. So you have, that means that people are playing different roles in this economy. There are some people who play in this way, there's some people who play in this other way, so there's some people who might, just invest. And so guilds also play a role in that economy as well.
Yeah, it is to me as a concept, guilds are, I don't know if it's not a technical term, but they're very sort of blockchainy, aren't they? Obviously we have the idea of DAOs, which is really only scratched the surface of these very powerful sort of groupings of people that can have now, they can have economies within them, and they can do all these cool things, which you could do without blockchains, but much harder to do. And clearly, we've had guilds in games for as long as there's been MMORPGs, but now we can sort of have guilds that are it's called meta guilds, and there's lots of stuff going on there. So in terms of your guilds, obviously that's at the moment you're thinking that's sort of part of your game and have a very clear, as you say, sort of mechanic for you want to be in a guild in this game because it allows you to have access to these things. How much thought have you given to the fact that I think guilds are going to be powerful in a lot of blockchain games. If your game's successful, you can have a lot of guilds. How can people sort of break those out? Have you thought about sort of how guilds in this game might then go on to at least other games in Immutable X? Or is that sort of much further down the line? The game's not even live yet. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the general idea of interoperability is one that we've looked at. We've probably looked at it more on the hero side, which is like how can we have characters in Guild of Guardians which you can play in another game, such as Sandbox or such as something else. So on the guild side, we haven't looked into that as much, but that's that general concept is definitely something that could make sense.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of on the NFT side, you have done some sales, and the sales have just been guilds. That's right, isn't it?
So far, we've actually sold all the guilds, and then we've also sold out all the legendary hero summons.
Oh, you have, okay, done some heroes as well. So in terms of how, if the guilds can only, you can't just sort of create a guild. You have to basically get a ticket or I don't know.
Like an NFT, yeah.
Yeah. So the moment you sold a whole bunch out, how is that a sort of fixed supply on that? How are you thinking about it? Because obviously, if the game's more successful, there'll always be sort of demand for more guilds. So is that just something that you'll have to sort of create more of over time?
So we've sold out all the founder guilds, and the intention is to not have more founder guilds in the future. I think in the future, you're right. Like when the game gets successful, we want more players, and we want more players to have experience playing in these guilds, and so we're likely going to need to introduce more guilds in the future, albeit different ones. So the exact mechanics of this distribution haven't been defined yet, but it is something that we're working on now in order to balance. We don't want to give the early adopters a huge advantage because they have all these guilds. We also don't want to block out all these newer players, which is ultimately not in anyone's best interest. So I think we just want to find the right balance there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there is also this. So you've got the NFT side. You also do have a token, a cryptocurrency, an ERC20. So can you talk a little bit about how that works and the kind of the sort of process, how that fits into the game?
Sure. So broadly speaking, there will be a token, we call it gems, that'll kind of power the Guild of Guardians economy. And the goal of this is we want to use it to help align incentives by everyone. And so what happens is that there's a fixed supply of these gems, and they get distributed out over time to players and to members of the community in exchange for them playing the game as they would, or doing stuff around the game, like creating content, developing third-party applications, and other things like that. And then so what these gems can be used for in the game is they can be used every time something gets minted. It actually costs a small amount of gems, which is one of the ways we allow players to play the game for free while regulating the economy. And so that's one of the ways in which gems are used. Another way in which gems are used is that every time basically the developer, so us, we make money, like whether we're selling something on the primary sales or whether we're taking a fee on secondary sales, 20% of that has to be paid for in gems, which will get sent to a rewards pool. And so the gems in that rewards pool will get redistributed back to kind of people who own gems and who actively participate in the game.
Mm-hmm. Geeky question, but I always like to know what are you thinking about sort of fee structure at the moment? We see everything from about kind of 4% to 10%. Where do you think the sweet spot is?
We're currently kind of figuring that out. So we don't have a number right now, but I think over the long term we plan to basically make more of our money off fees, secondary trading, rather than primary sales, just because it kind of aligns incentives a little bit better. We're not trying to sell as much stuff as possible to people. We're not trying to maximize money that way. We want to give value to the community, and I think having a model that's based more on trading is more aligned with what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, that's always been sort of I've done some very basic kind of modelling on that, and it does take a bit of time to sort of get back the money. It seems easier, and most developers obviously have spent their entire career just doing what you just called their primary sales, because that's kind of, you take money off, you create content, you take money off the player base, and then at the moment you do it as many times as possible because there's no mechanic to go around. But clearly the transactional model, if you want to run a game that's going to last 5, 10, 15, 100 years, taking a small percentage off that as that goes on is actually much more powerful in the long term. And actually, if you kind of think a game is going to last 10 years, then if the value's going to go up and you're going to get whatever percent every time that sells, that's an incredibly powerful way of, as you say, aligning the kind of incentives for the developer and the player base.
Absolutely.
Do you? I mean, I don't know how. If you talk to sort of people in the games industry who don't understand blockchain games or aren't interested in it, do you think that that's something conceptually that they can overcome quite quickly? Or for me, I see a sort of group of people who I just think conceptually find that really difficult to understand, that we're not going to make money off selling stuff, we're going to make money off people trading stuff. Those are two quite different things for the games industry.
I don't think there's necessarily a big conceptual barrier. I'm sure that game designers get it. Like they understand the different benefits that could bring. I think, where some of the skepticism perhaps is in where they identify the different cons. So like they might identify a bunch of different cons, like, hey, it doesn't make sense for NFTs. Or they say, hey, for X, Y, Z reason, it doesn't make sense for NFTs to be in a game. And that's why there might be more skepticism right now, like among general designers around NFTs. But I think as we see more games come online and prove out some of these models, or even just experiments, some of them successful, some of them fail, I think we'll see people open their minds up more to kind of some of the possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday I was just listening to a podcast where it was some game designers discussing Axie Infinity, and it was fascinating how there were sort of different levels of skepticism. They weren't anti it; they were smart people who designed games, but you could kind of see it was interesting. They were really, some parts of it they were really struggling with, and I think there's a tendency, if you think this stuff is bad, then any con is sort of fatal to the entire kind of concept of blockchain games. Whereas if you're very positive, I guess like us, you got to go, well, it's a problem now. Yeah, we haven't fully understood that, but the advantages are so massive. How can this not happen? So it's sort of funny, and I guess the whole games industry. The games industry is some game designers never really understood mobile. They just obviously designing for console. It's very different to free to play mobile. So I guess there'll be different games for different sort of contexts.
It's a different, very different way of thinking, because every game so far has been designed for a closed economy. There's no such thing as trading. And so even the way you think about games and think about designing them, making them engaging, monetizing, that's completely different to what you need to think about for a game with an open economy, which we kind of saw 20 years ago with some MMOs with, illegal real-world trading. But really in the last, I think, 10 years, we haven't really seen anyone really design games like that.
Mm-hmm. So there's a term that I've never really liked, but obviously it's come to it is what we use at the moment, which is play to earn. So this is the sort of idea, and I guess it's a good term in the sense that any game running any elements on the blockchain, a blockchain means that any transaction has some sort of financial value attached to it. Doesn't mean it's a lot of financial value, just means it's some, maybe a lot. And obviously the idea with the game is, if you're interacting with that game, if you're playing, at some point there's some ability for you to earn some rewards, maybe NFT, maybe some tokens, that then it's an open economy. You can at some point you can cash that out for some real money, typically in some way. So this is something that everyone's talking about now. How do you see this sort of play to earn mechanic? Is this what we're stuck with? Are there sort of better terms? How do Guild of Guardians fit into that sort of description?
Yeah, I mean, I think the concept of play to earn is very powerful. Like, people are now able to play a game and make money, right? It kind of completely changes how you think about games. I think the phrasing play to earn might imply that people are playing the game just to make money, though. Like, it's almost like it's just a replacement for your full-time job. And I think that's not necessarily where a lot of the potential is. Because there are a lot of people, games are ultimately a source of entertainment, and there's infinite entertainment options out there. And so what we really need is, if we want to attract billions of people playing these games, is we want games that are entertaining and where players can earn. And so I think one of the terms I like is the idea of play and earn. So you're not just playing to try to make money and try to earn, but you get both, the best of both worlds, which I think is what a lot of studios today are trying to build towards.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's a much better term. We will have to start seeding the concept
I
of
know.
play and earn out to replace the play to earn. Because I think it's entirely I entirely agree with you that if blockchain games just become sort of play to earn, then effectively you've just put a sort of game wrapper on some DeFi stuff. And DeFi, I love DeFi. DeFi's fine, but it's not. You don't spend 10 hours a day playing DeFi. I mean, some traders sort of might do, but it's not fun. Whereas the point of a game is that there is that sort of being in another world, and obviously you have the psychological endorphins or dopamine or whatever. But it is the community and the stickiness, and that's why games have been so successful. So if you combine those two things, if you can have fun and play and earn something, you may not be earning. I guess the other problem is everyone sees blockchain games as you're going to earn your full-time living on that, and some people obviously in the world may be able to do that, but for a lot of people in the world, in North America and kind of Western Europe, you're probably not that many people are going to earn their entire living in a game. They might earn some supplementary stuff. So I mean, when you think about designing Guild of Guardians, do you obviously it would be a great thing for your assets to go through sort of an Axie Infinity sort of explosion. Do you do sort of modelling around that? Do you kind of think, well, we're going to have some of these things for $10, but in 5 years' time they need to be worth $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever it is? I mean, you've already sold some. Your most expensive guilds were $100,000, weren't they? It's kind of primary sales. So how do you see those sort of big money sort of tags?
Yeah, I think one of the things we aim to design for is longevity, and so we want this game to be here in 5-10 years time, right? Which is not what most games are designed to do. And so we definitely look at everything to do with kind of demand and supply, kind of pricing, scarcity. We look at all of that to think about how it can be long term and sustainable. And so this is, we've done modeling on this, and there's a lot more work that we need to do as well. I think one of the key drivers of all of this comes down to the number of players. And so really like the number one driver of the success of an economy is how many people are in that economy and engaged. And so ultimately kind of that's one of the goals we're driving towards as well.
And I guess going back to what we were just discussing, that's a key factor of, is the game any good?
Right, yeah.
So, that will decide how big your audience is. So for people who want to sort of get more information about Guild of Guardians, people want to get involved, where are you at the moment in terms of kind of roadmap? What are the things people can where should people be directing their attention?
Yeah, so we have actually over 250,000 people now across different channels. We're most active on Discord and Twitter, so I'd encourage anyone who's interested to follow us on Twitter, which is at Guild of Guardian without the S at the end, because it doesn't fit the Twitter length, and then or join our Discord group, which is you can find us on our Twitter. And then if you want more info, just check out our website, www.guildofguardians.com.
And in terms of more NFT kind of sales, pre-sales, what's any fixed dates?
So we don't have any dates, any fixed dates right now, but we are aiming to have our next sale within a month. We've so far done wave 1. We plan to have 3 waves of sales. We'll probably have our next one within the next month.
And are they the ones that were your first kind of sales? Are they minted yet? Are they tradable or?
They're currently not minted yet. I don't know when this interview will go live, so maybe they will be by the time it does. They're very close.
Okay, cool, cool, good. Excellent. Well, we will obviously have to revisit with another podcast when you're kind of getting closer to kind of first playable. I think that's. With blockchain games, it's always exciting to sort of talk about concepts and stuff because there's so much behind them. But the proof of the pudding is when something's actually available to play. So it'd be very interested to come back to you and talk again whenever that is. But thanks very much, Derek.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. For sure, we'll chat again.
Yes, and thanks to you for listening or watching, depending on how you are consuming the podcast videocast. Hope you're enjoying what we're doing here at Blockchain Gaming World. As I always say, every week we're talking to the people who are building this crazy new sector. It's not quite every week. Sometimes it's more than one a week, and sometimes it's not any for a while. But I hope you forgive us some sort of irregularity. It's a very busy time at the moment in the industry. Yeah. But we're almost at 100. So I would say if you haven't subscribed yet, you might want to subscribe as we get to 100. There might be some interesting stuff going on when we get to number 100 that you may be interested in. But anyway, thanks for listening and watching this one. Please subscribe to the channel, and see you next time.